Go ahead, Representative.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, colleagues. Thank you for the opportunity to present this bill. My name is Paula Brown. I'm from District 87 in St. Louis County. I'm here to present House Bill 1851. There's been a lot of discussion. This bill is similar to last year's bill that we heard in this committee. We did make some slight changes. I'm going to walk through what those changes are, and I'm going to show page numbers for the highlights of what this bill does. The simple explanation is that we would like to change the accreditation system, and we would like to remove the MAP test as being our sole one-time standardized test at the end of the school year. If you look at page 5, the highlights are on line 19. We choose a different standardized test that meets the federal law. What we need to know about the federal law is that it requires us to give 17 tests throughout a student's career, and in certain subjects, and then it also requires us to report the bottom 5%. That's the big chunk of the federal requirement. If we don't do those things, we lose all of our federal funding, so that's problematic. The assessment shall align to state standards. It should provide access to national norms, measure student growth, and we've talked a lot about that today, and access student performance relative to grade level. I'll comment more about that shortly. Assessment will be used for purposes to meet the federal law. Local assessments, on page 6, local assessments, portfolios, performance-based assessments, and projects with public demonstrations are something we are interested in adding for local assessments. On page 7, we would like the assessments locally to be developed by teachers in consultation with administrators, students, parents, and community. That way, we really hit the mark on being transparent about what our kids are learning in schools. On page 9, it does address the school report card. Please remember that these are not just what we want in there. Local school districts should be allowed to add to their report card as they see fit so that they can inform their school district and their parents and their constituents to meet their needs. So just because we have a list of things that are here doesn't mean that we're limited to those things. Lastly, the big one, where you might hear from our state agency is I've asked in this bill that we move away from MSIP6 and go to an accrediting agency. And now I'm going to give my age away a little. When I first started teaching, our whole state used accrediting agencies. Where I started teaching, we were with North Central. And if you do any research on school districts who do what I'm proposing, they've done this for years, and their school systems are doing great. Things are transparent and clear, but we also know that it provides an opportunity for school districts to improve, even if they're top-notch. All of us strive to improve every day. I don't know why school districts wouldn't do the same thing. With all of that said, I want to give you a little data. 21 states in our country do not accredit schools, period. Of those, we also have 34 states that don't use a statewide test to accredit. 34 states do not use anything like the MAP test to accredit. I've heard a lot of conversation today about comparing ourselves to other states and how we've gone up or we've gone down. None of us use the same test, folks. I'm not sure how we get our comparisons. The other thing you need to know about the state MAP test is it has a measure of growth, and it's complicated and challenging like everyone has said, but what it doesn't do is compare. It doesn't give an easy opportunity to compare this third grader score to his fourth grade score. How much has he improved? The other thing is, Representative Kelly pointed out earlier, it's a different test every year. Teachers often get beat up because we have really been reduced to teaching to a test that doesn't give us really much valid data. The other thing we have to remember is that oftentimes the test was purposely written a grade level above, so if you're taking a fourth grade test, it's on a fifth grade reading level. And lastly, let's talk about the definition of proficient. We want all our kids to be on grade level. and that's a high bar for some of our kiddos, right? Because the MAP test tests everyone. It tests students with IEPs, and if you don't test enough students, you get dinged by the state for a level not determined. I'm not sure it's always appropriate to test every student. I know the goal is 95%, but some areas have a higher percentage than 5% of students with IEPs. And lastly, I'd like to talk about grade level. Grade level falls somewhere between basic and proficient. Proficient should be challenging to get to if it doesn't include the definition of grade level. And at this time, we have zero definition of grade level. So we talk about students not being where they should be, but we don't have a good definition of grade level, and we need to do that. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll open up to questions.
So thank you, Representative. So you're open to putting my grade level bill on this bill?
Absolutely, it's imperative.
Thank you. What I heard was that you're doing away with MAP. We'll have another test that will determine what the feds require. That you're taking accreditation away from the department to the second group, or out of two groups that the department would choose from. Do you have a definition of growth in your bill?
I do not. I knew that we were going to have another bill that talked about growth, and from all of the witness, from the representative himself, there needs to be some conversation about that. I feel challenged when we talk about mandating every single little piece. We will get a definition of growth, but I think it's really going to take a conversation amongst the group here, taking into consideration what we've heard from all of our witnesses as well.
And overall, your part of the bill takes more responsibility away from the department and leaves more of it to the local districts and their parents and their community to have a snapshot of how they feel their district is doing compared to what we do now.
It does. However, there will be pieces that the state creates for the report card. We're still going to have a test, right, from the national, and I think it's imperative that people know how students are doing on that test.
Before I go to the committee, how many are here to testify in favor? 3 opposed. Informational purposes only. We may not have to come back, folks. We'll just wait and see. How many are any questions for the representative? Representative Kelly.
To inquire, please.
Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you for bringing this. We've asked for it for a long time. You've worked diligently and hard. I thank you for that. So my question is dealing with your report card. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to marry your bill with Representative Hafner's bill, he's talking about a report card and you're talking about a report card. Do you envision these as being separate report cards?
I would hate to think that we're going to have 2 report cards.
Okay.
I think that would be challenging for parents to read. For those of us who are in public education forever and a day, we know how to read all of that data. It needs to be readable for parents.
Correct. Yeah, going on the DESE website is a mess. Mm-hmm. My next question is with your third-party accreditation. So do you see DESE paying for these, or do you see the school districts paying for these?
So DESE pays for the MAP test right now,
correct,
right? I would anticipate that DESE would pay for it. And when I got the financial piece of this, I wasn't really overly concerned. It was like $127,000, I think. I don't know what we pay for the MAP test. I've not researched that. That's on me. But I would suspect that DESE would pay for that.
Yeah, I do think there's an individual fee, I'm thinking, from the from the MAP test, but that doesn't compare to $150,000 or whatever you just said. Mm-hmm. So I would hope that DESE would take that up. So thank you for bringing this.
Thank you.
Representative Gregg.
Thank you to inquire. Okay, so on page 7, the assessment. Quick question on that. You said the local assessment system shall be created in conjunction with teachers, administrators, students, parents, community leaders, community to reflect the complete picture, on and on. I'll be honest with you, I'm not an educator or a past educator like yourself, Chairman Pollitt, Steinhoff, the two next to me here as well. I barely struggle to hang on sometimes, so thank you very much. This all sounds really fantastic. But one thing I do know is parents, as we had 3 parents here today, they really want to be involved, but there's a struggle getting them involved when it comes to things like this. Do you have any suggestions, because when it comes to things of this nature, I see where the local school will basically control that process, and getting parents to come in and actually help with building something like this is very difficult. What do you have that might be able to get parents involved with this? Because they're going to complain mostly, but getting them involved to create may be the issue.
Have you ever sat on a curriculum committee? It's just
As an advisor, no, but as a viewer, yes.
as a viewer, yes. So I would anticipate, and there's a reason I ask that, is I would anticipate that assessment creation, report card creation would look like a curriculum committee works. That we invite people in, and we take whoever comes, right? We should never close the door on anyone who has, wants to have input on the things that go on, such as these things. That's how I would anticipate it would look, is that we would invite them in. They would be part of the regular committee. They could ask questions. They could give input. I was in education for 31 years, and what educators know about themselves is that we could practice for 40 years and we still don't know everything.
Of course.
There are things that we think we were like everyone else. We put these, when we know where I have to get to. Oftentimes, we don't think about the outside consequences, and so I'm hoping that when these committees are formed, that we listen to everyone, that we invite people, and that we really take their input seriously, because I think parents have great things to add to
Very
these
much so.
things.
Okay. You also said, and this is a different topic, 21 states don't accredit at all?
Nope.
Any around us, by chance? Not that it matters, but any around us?
I can tell you, I wrote the whole list down because I was shocked. Arizona, California, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Kentucky, Maine, Minnesota, Nevada, New Hampshire, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Utah, Vermont, and Wisconsin. A plethora of different kinds of states with different needs have chosen not to use, and there's 34 states who don't use a state test to help accredit. I appreciate when states take control of not always linking everything together with the feds, right? We don't have to use that test to accredit, and I am of the opinion that we really shouldn't, but that's not what I'm necessarily addressing in this bill.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Representative Burns?
Thank you for putting all this together in the data. I don't know if this is the appropriate place to ask you this, but when you're looking at outside the test, we both know it's important for parents to know these benchmarks and know where they stand. But tests don't educate kids. So when you look at states, regardless of what the paper says, you've been in this profession for so long. Is there a state that you think we could aspire to model benchmarking our students on that's doing well?
I'm going to be honest, I haven't done that research yet. What I do know as an educator, that assessment should drive instruction. We assess, so we find out where our students are, so we know where to adjust, what to reteach, what to teach differently, and then we assess again to make sure that our students understand what we've taught, right?
Right.
I don't know what some of those other states are doing in that area. I do know that some of the states I've mentioned really do purposeful creation of curriculum so that it meets the needs and meets state standards at the same time. So I would say to you, I think the best place we could start is curriculum on that, and have assessments embedded in the curriculum. That does two things to answer one of your questions. When we embed assessments into curriculum, it shows us exactly what we're going to be assessed on and exactly what the standards are, right? So all of us have gone to a college class where we got a syllabus, and what we assessed on and what was said was in the syllabus were like Georgia and Hawaii. I mean, it was the two different things. I'd like to see that change, where that when a student takes an assessment, a parent who helps their children prepare for those assessments knows exactly what the kids are being assessed on, and that's curriculum.
Okay, and when is MAP testing administered? Beginning of the year or the end?
It's in April, typically. There's a window, and it's about a 6-week window because they don't have everybody testing at the same time, because most school districts who have access to broadband and internet test, as Representative Kelly mentioned, it's a computer screen. An interesting side note on that is that when kids are scrolling to read a passage, they have to scroll to different pages, which is sometimes challenging for third graders. So it's given in April, 6 weeks. It's a 2-week span. And then there's usually another week for makeups, if I'm correct. And it's timed. It's long.
Well, the other thing is, so we talk about teach the test. That comes up a lot. And it seems like, really you need to test to teach, right? So if you could do the MAP testing at the beginning of the year, the data would help with those assessments. We're already spending money on them. And you would have the same educators, right? So what you're doing is you're testing at the end of the year, and then you're turning that data over. You're having a potential education loss over summers, and then handing it to a new educator at the next year. So we're spending a lot of money on MAP testing, and we're not getting a lot of teaching results from those tests. Would you agree, or is that just my parent advocate?
No, I agree, and most teachers would agree with you as well. Please don't hand me something in August or September. We've already started school. The class rosters have changed. Transiency in some areas is huge, right? So we don't have data on these 6 students, or in some instances, 20 out of 25 students we don't have data on. That's problematic when we want to use the MAP test to accredit schools. At the end of the day, the MAP just isn't valid for all the things assessments should mean and give us.
Okay. Thank you. I think that helps make it really clear. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to move on along. Thank you for your presentation. We're going to open this up for public testimony. We're going to have to move quickly.